The UEFA Nations League promotional playoff draws are complete, and Armenia knows who they will be facing for a chance to be promoted to League B in the next cycle of the Nations League. Jason, Armenia is matched against their Caucasus rival from the north, Georgia. What do you think of
Yeah.
that matchup?
Well, for our returning listeners and viewers, I predicted that Iceland would be Armenia's matchup, and from a geographical and travel standpoint, this is a good scenario.
Short
But
road.
that's probably the only good scenario here because Georgia are a pretty good team. Georgia versus Armenia is undoubtedly going to be filled with fireworks, literally and figuratively. These games are going to be must-watch TV. You could, as much as Armenia and Georgia have good relations, you could call this a rivalry. Honestly, like you're talking about, like you said, two Caucasus teams. Honestly, it could be any of the Caucasus teams. It's going to be a huge match. And Georgia, they got some really good players. Obviously, the player of note here is Napoli's Kavicha Kvaratskhelia. The guy literally has been dubbed
Say that three
Kvaradona.
times fast.
Yeah, right. And you're gonna summon something. But anyway, the point is the guy's really good, and Georgia have a sound team, a sound enough team, honestly, to the point that they were in the European championships.
Yes, and they were one
So
of the darlings of the European Championships.
yeah,
They fought Turkey hard in their first match, lost 3-1. It was 1-1 for much of the second half before Turkey pulled away with a goal by Guler. And then against Czech Republic, they were able to get a draw against them, which was a good result. And then they beat Portugal. Granted, Portugal, I believe, in that game was resting a lot of players, but still a big win. It wasn't handed to them. Like they still came
no,
out and they won. They scored in the second minute of that game, Kvaratskhelia, and then got a penalty kick later on. But and then they lost to Spain in the game that they were,
the eventual
yeah,
champions.
the eventual champions. They did have a 1-0 lead in that game though.
I
People
know.
forget.
I remember that. I remember that. I was in Palm Springs when they took the lead. I was watching it with my family, and I was like, I can't believe this. I hope we put money on Georgia.
Yeah, it was 1-1 at halftime. It was a draw, and then Spain
Yeah.
is obviously much stronger than Georgia. But since then, they had a couple wins against the Czech Republic and Albania. They are on a 4-game winless streak. They lost to the Ukraine, they lost to Albania, a draw against Ukraine, and then they lost to Czech Republic. So maybe they peaked in the summer because in the fall they have not been playing well. Kind of in a similar place as Armenia, which is struggling. Um, and so, there's a reason why they're in a relegation playoff for them. This is
Yeah.
they did not finish well in the Nations League. They did not. They started off strong and then they just kind of coasted and weren't able to uh, secure a spot in League B. When in the summer you probably thought that they would easily be able to do that, but not so much. Now they're in this interesting scenario where they have to beat Armenia on aggregate in order to stay in League B.
Right. And the two matches, what, March 20th, 2025, and then that match, the first one will be in Armenia in Yerevan. Second match on the 23rd, and that will be in Tbilisi. That's going to be the match to obviously be played for all the marbles at that
Yeah,
point because you would expect Armenia to have some sort of, backbone at home, but we've also learned that they probably play better away from home. So it's gonna remain to be seen what actually happens to the squad between now and March. Albeit, what is that? If my math is correct, 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months, a long
Yeah,
time. I'm sure about that point, Armenia may have played a couple friendlies as well, and they uh, should hopefully have a manager at that point. You would think, a full time,
yeah,
not interim manager, and we'll see what happens with them. I mean, it's a long time away, and and all of this drama we're having might not even exist at that point. So we'll see what happens. Until then, again, it's a long ways away.